It's yet another Damascus Encounter episode on Hope Channel. It's a beautiful thing when we can share stories and get inspired by what God is doing or has done in the lives of His children. Today on the program, we have a very special guest, a story you would not want to miss for anything. So as you sit down to watch this program, I'd like to introduce my guest, Pastor Benjamin Yemson Nuhu, who will be sharing with us a very, very deep and interesting experience he had from childhood. Pastor Nuhu, welcome to the Damascus Encounter.
Thank you so much, sir.
And I'm so glad I have the privilege of sitting with you.
Thank you, sir.
And having you share the story.
Thank you, sir.
So, if we must know and meet Pastor Nuhu, who is Pastor Nuhu? That is just a little bit about who you are, your person, your work, and...
Okay, Pastor Nuhu Benjamin Yemson is the fourth child of the family of four,
okay,
who's been an orphan for more than 3 decades. Married with 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Okay.
I'm presently serving with the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Northwest Nigerian Conference.
Okay.
I am currently the Public Campus Ministries and Chaplaincy Ministries and Adventist Possibility Ministries Director with the Northwest Nigerian Conference, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And welcome once again.
Thank you, sir.
Your story is one story that intrigues me a lot. So let's take it from your childhood days. What was it that happened and how did it mold Pastor Benjamin Yemson Nuhu's life?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I become emotional anytime I'm asked about my childhood because it was a sweet journey that turned rough. Like I said earlier in the introduction, I'm the fourth child of the family of 4, the last.
Okay.
My father was a military personnel, and I was born and brought up in the military family. God being faithful, we had the best we can afford at a point in time until disaster struck, sometimes around 1992 when I lost my parents as a result of the crisis in Nigeria and Liberia then. I lost my mother and my father, like I said, for more than 3 decades ago, about 31 years now, thereabout. And the story turned from sweet to sour story. Immediately, I lost them. Like the tradition is with the military, you're bundled to the village, especially when both parents are gone. And so that fateful day, he went to Liberia for peacekeeping mission. And the news got to us that very year that all the military personnel in Nigeria actually didn't return alive.
Those that went to Liberia?
Yes, for peacekeeping mission. Unfortunately, he survived bullets and returned back to Nigeria. And along the way, the wife got the news and rushed in and crashed on the process. He came out of the coma after a short while, and the news of the demise also took him out. Quite unfortunately, we lost 3, my immediate kid sister, and that's why I said I'm the last of the 4. And so here we are from the city to the village.
So when you said your mother drove the car and crashed into, was it as a result of the news she heard?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so she heard the news, she was driving.
She drove into a station car and crashed before him. And a week later, just the space of 7 days, everything happened within the space of 7 days, sir.
Okay.
So she crashed, and then coming out of coma, the kid sister told him, his kid sister, my aunt, told him the sad news of the demise of his wife.
So your mom died instantly?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that.
Thank you, sir.
And about your kid sister that was with her?
No, they both crashed at the spot.
Wow, that must be hard.
It was.
So, your father came out of coma,
Yeah.
and then he was informed of, he got news of his wife's death.
Yes.
demise.
Yes,
and
sir.
then
He passed on the shock. He couldn't survive the shock, so he died. Just exactly 7 days from the day she crashed, she died.
so within in the space of 7 days,
in fact, it was on
1
a
week.
Thursday. She died on a Thursday. The news came on a Thursday, and he died on a Thursday. The next week, Thursday.
That's serious.
Very serious, sir.
And it's good to see that you have survived this, and you've had to, today you can smile and share the story.
Yes, yes.
So let's look at when this happened. Everybody had to be moved out of the, of course, you had to move back to the village,
Yes.
like you said. So
Yes.
what was life in the village like? Your siblings, the remaining, the 4 of you?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, we came back from the village. Of course, you know, living in the city, you have a lot of aunts who care for you and stuff like that. And we're bundled, let me use that word, bundled from the barracks city down to the village, and the burial was conducted. And for the first few days, people were all nice and caring for you, an offspring of their beloved brother. But soon after the burial, everybody deserted the environment, and life began afresh. And so my siblings, all of us were separated. My father's younger brother from the other community, because also my father lost his father when he was just 7.
Oh.
And so his mother got married in another community where she raised some of his siblings too, who were living with him. Okay. So invariably, they were siblings, but from 2 different fathers and 2 different communities. In fact, 2 different local governments. And so his immediate younger brother from the other community came, took my other brother and one of my sisters. And then my mother's immediate elder brother came, took my eldest sister. And the argument was that I'm the last and all of us cannot leave the village. So I was left in the village to stay with my grandfather's younger brother who brought my father up.
So how did life turn out for you?
Well, like I was saying, coming back from the city, I was already in primary 2. I could remember primary 2, primary 3, and schooling in the village was difficult. Okay. It was not a big school, just community nursery, primary school, but then I had to turn to a farmer because I wasn't allowed to go to school. I had to go to farm. Sometimes I have to sneak books to read. And then
Why is that so? Is it because it was the school is there?
And the school is there. Well, the issue is...
Was it the cost of...
No, there was nothing. It was a free education, sir. But for whatsoever reason, the man wasn't wicked to me, but he had 2 wives who perhaps don't want to see us go to school. I don't know. And maybe because my siblings were in the city, and anytime there are other younger children in the family too who go to school. But I started feeling maybe because I'm an orphan, and maybe story wanted to repeat itself. I was, for reason best known to them, not allowed to go to school. You're not allowed to go to school. So I continued like that because I already learned how to read and write, so I could steal their books, study. That was how it went. I'll be in school for the first time. Once it is raining season, I'm off school, I have to be in the farm. You know, stuff like that and stories like that. And one day, a friend to my mother actually came to the village and saw me, and hearing my story, she decided to register for my, common entrance examination. So I have to sneak out to go and write common entrance examination, even without staying much in school. Of course, then I knew how to read, how to write, so it was easy for me.
So, you practically schooled yourself from primary 2, because to write common entrance means you must be in primary 6.
Yes.
So
I was in primary 2 when the event happened.
Okay.
So I came back to the village. I was already in primary 3. Okay.
Yes. So it's like from primary 3, you read your way through to primary 6 to be able to write a common entrance exam.
Yes, somehow, because once there's no work and nobody's stressing me around, I can go to school. But the moment there is work in the house, I have to stay back home and do the work while others go to school. And so that continued. That was the experience. Farm, home, no school.
They kind of staggered and stuttered thing today, off and on.
Yes.
Okay, so you wrote this common entrance exams by providentially, we would say.
Yes, somebody registered for me.
And how did life turn out afterwards?
Well, after that, I think my grandmother from the other community heard of my ordeal in the village. So she came with my father's younger brother. When they heard the story from other people around the community, they decided I was going to spend a Christmas period with my grandmother. So it was from there they picked me and never returned me back to my father's community. So I stayed with my grandmother, and that was how I was able to go to school. That was how I was able to go to secondary school. And I continued from there. And so that was how everything turned out to be. So it was with my grandma and my uncle, my step-uncle from the other community, that I was allowed to go to school. They paid for my school fees until I was in SS3.
Senior secondary school.
Yes, until I got to SS3 before the whole story and the whole scenario changed again.
So all this while, as you try to navigate life with all these experiences as a young person growing up, and you looking at other kids in the community, other kids in the same home where you had all these, should I say, distractions or this inability to do schooling, how did you feel? That is, what was the picture of God in your mind?
Okay, maybe let me state this. From the time my parent died, I was separated from my siblings for 6 years.
Okay.
We didn't see each other.
Okay.
I know I practically walk with my shirt torn and my belly because I was using it to climb trees. You know, you have to scroll with your belly to get to the top of the tree. I know I had to go to school barefooted. You know, at a point in time, I was rubbing kerosene. You know, you wake up and you want to go to school, there's no cream. And so the wisdom of a child then, since kerosene seems to look like one, you rub it, and at the end of it, before you get to school, you end up becoming whiter.
White. Exactly.
Then, so those are the experiences. I remember at a point in time, in all the struggles in my father's village, I had to go from farm to farm. After people finish harvesting their corn, I'll glean the heads of corn. I'll bring it home. It will be collected, and I won't benefit from it. I would go cutting thatch grasses, because then we use thatch to roof homes. Okay. I would do that to sell. If I don't sell it in the bush where I cut the thatch, once it gets home, I won't have the power to sell it again. It was rough. It was discouraging. It was disheartening, sir. It was a painful experience. I remember at a point in time, my mother's elder brother wanted to come and pick me, because my father's community and my mother's community are the same community. Okay. They were just streets apart from each other. In fact, the houses are not far from each other. I know my mother's elder brother will come from time to time to pick me to his house. My uncle will come back and bring me back to my father's house. And so they gave them a warning to stay clear, stay off me. I am not in any way their child. They own me. And because I was alone in the village, no brother, no sister, I practically become a definition of a destitute, an orphan who is destitute. And so sometimes I remember often I would go to my mother's grave and I would cry. So sometimes I'll stay there till late in the night and come back crying. And, you know, at a point in time, I actually saw God as a wicked person. Why would God take my parent? In fact, at that point in time, I started getting to know myself when the missionaries came and they started teaching about God. For me, I was seeing a wicked God. How can God allow a small child pass through that stress of life? How can God watch and allow my parents die within that space of... In fact, when I was getting... Of course, I forgot to state earlier that I am my father's carbon copy, so I was his favorite. So I was closer to my father, and my other brother was closer to my mother. So the death of my father was like a part of me taken off. And so growing around, seeing children going to school where I have to go to the farm, seeing children during Christmas period with new clothes and I have to walk barefooted with old clothes was this. In fact, I remember that one of my father's cousins who brought my father up and whom I was staying with, one of his daughter came back from the city, from Kaduna, and bought some clothes for us. And you know, the grandmother, her mother, his wife, took my own share of the clothes and gave it to other kids. It was my mother's mother who bought me the clothes I wore for that Christmas. I cannot forget. That was December 1994. It's still clear in my brain. So that was my plight all through that period. It has been hell. And you know, it's so the community is such a community that everybody mind his own business. Because there are some instability, because I came from a royalty. My father is a son of a village chief, and so the throne is a rotational throne. Because the one who took the throne after my grandfather was very wicked. He was chased out of the throne somehow, and he went on exile. So the throne moved to another, what do you call it now, clan. And so because of that, there's this issue with my clan, with other clan. And so anything that concerns us,
So people tend to look away from.
they look at that clan as a wicked clan. So while this was happening to us, people could attest to the fact that no, there is something wicked about this particular clan. So nobody wants to dabble into it. By the way, he's their grandson. Anything they want to do with him. The only person that intercepted was my mother's elder brother. From time to time, they keep having problems. So at a point in time, his siblings told him, "It's their son. Let him be."
That's deep, and it's, I don't know even the words to find for it, but we'll take a little break now, and when we come back, we continue with the sharing. Damascus Encounter will be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Damascus Encounter, where we have been sharing with Pastor Benjamin Yensom Nuhu, who is opening up this deep experience he had in his childhood and how he had to survive by the sheer providence of God. Pastor Nuhu, let's continue with this sharing with the little time we have left, talking about, so all of this transpired. You had this bitterness inside of you where God is concerned, that if God is a good God, He will not allow all of this to happen to you. But then, you are here today. Before we get to how you got here, after you got into secondary school, and then you were able to cross to SS3. What happened afterwards?
You know, like I was saying, in the other village, life was smooth. I appreciate God for that. My grandmother took care of me. My father's siblings, stepbrothers from the other community took good care of me. And it was a very beautiful story. And when I was in SS2, I came across the Seventh-day Adventist. Before then, one of my father's younger brothers from the other community was already a Seventh-day Adventist. Okay. He became an Adventist in 1982. He stayed with my father. He was practically the person that babysitted me. And so, when I got to the village, I was with my grandmother in the other community. He took me to Sokoto. From Sokoto, I stayed there for a while. And after the crisis, the Kaduna crisis of 2000, we were forced to return back to Kaduna State. So because of that, I had to go back to the village to stay with my grandmother. So in the village, I continued with my secondary school. And my uncle, who was my father's direct immediate younger brother, a stepbrother, took good care of me. But in 2001, Pastor Johanna Musa Dangana came to my community. I think that was his first public evangelism after he graduated from ASWA. So he came to the community and started 2 weeks revival. Okay. From there, I started following up. At first, I didn't want to go. I felt, like I told you earlier, God shouldn't be God. Until I graduated from secondary school, my consciousness of God was not there because I was feeling deserted by God. I felt God has forsaken me. I was still angry with God. Why would God allow my parents die when I needed them the most? I told you, in fact, my other uncle sent me to a boarding school in Kebbi State. And so he was far from where I was schooling, so they couldn't come for visiting day. So anytime I see children welcoming their parents when they come to visit them on visiting day, it reminds me of the fact that I'm an orphan. So I will cry. I remember in the school, Government Technical College, Zuru, I remember that then there's a river behind the school, surrounded with mango trees. I'll go to the riverside. It's sandy. I will cry, and then come back home in the evening when parents have left. So that kept creating an image of God, a distorted image of God in my mind. So I kept on resisting God. In fact, it took the grace of God that I'm not a Muslim today, because that place is an Islamic hub. I would have become a Muslim. Why I didn't become a Muslim is best known to God. So when we came back, Pastor Dangana came, and then I was questioning the whole thing. At first, when an evangelist came to the community, I started joining Fellowship of Christian Students. So FCS gave me the better understanding of God. Gradually, I started building my spirituality. I joined NIFEST, Nigeria Association of Nigeria Fellowship of Evangelical Students. Then gradually I got to know the likes of Maito Awojaye, the owner of Living Faith Foundation, the likes of Maito Awojaye, no, the evangelist, and then PJ Olaya of Living Faith Foundation. So I started building my spirituality from there. Then I became a disciple of Billy Akoni, house, a discipleship household in Nisi village. So gradually my knowledge of God started getting broadened, because I would stay in the village school, and during breaks I'll come back to the city. And so from there I started developing an interest in God. So when Pastor Y.M. Dangana came to the village, my understanding of Christianity is not that much. So I wasn't interested. But then at a point in time we said, okay, let us just go and hear him. The first day, the second day, the third day I became more interested. And then at the end of the evangelism session, I was baptized. Wow. That was how I became a Seventh-day Adventist.
At the time you were getting baptized, all this distorted feeling of God, they were gone? Or there were things you had to live with and then maybe it started fading out gradually?
Actually, FCS, NIFES, my meeting with Billy Akoni, Maito Awojaye, PJ Olaya actually reshaped my thinking. So, but I was still battling with some unanswered questions. So when Dangana appeared in my community, he spoke to those, addressed those needs. So I felt, yes, I have been healed from the pains within me. And so before I got baptized, I spoke with him, and then he counseled me and asked me, and remember what he told me, you have to forgive God and forgive yourself. So that was the turning point. It was from there I started learning the mercies of God, the enduring love of God, and it made me an Adventist. And I'm proud. In fact, I wasn't supposed to be in the village that week they came. Something happened, and my movement to the city was altered. So I stayed back in the city, in the village. So the first week, second week, came and went by and continued. And when he came, I was still in secondary school. So that gave me an insight. In fact, what actually gave me the connection was we were treating the gospel in secondary school. And then my CRS teacher was actually talking about Jesus' teachings, and he entered the Sabbath. So we got into a dialogue. Because my uncle was already a Seventh-day Adventist, was already a Sabbatarian. I am aware of the Sabbath. So we started arguing with them back and forth. So I would go and ask Dangana. Dangana would give me his answer. I would go back and ask my teacher. He would give me a different answer. That was how how I got interested in the program. So by the time he finished talking, I went back and the teacher told me, well, the Seventh-day Adventists are biblical theologians. The rest of us are systematicians. So when I went and I asked Pastor Dangana, he explained systematic theology and biblical theology to me. And I understand that the Seventh-day Adventist Church teaches what it sees in the Bible without any further commentaries.
Just the Bible and
Just
Bible
the Bible
alone.
and Bible alone. In fact, that was when I heard the word for the first time, sola scriptura. I heard it from Pastor Dangana. So that was how I started studying the Bible. And as a matter of fact, sir, in my entire life, the first time I took the Bible from Genesis to Revelation was when I became an Adventist. And that happened under 3 months. I studied the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and that broadened my horizon.
Change your perception about God and life and everything.
Especially the New Testament, sir.
At this point of your life, things seem to have fallen in place.
Yes, yes.
When did you decide you were going to be a pastor?
You know, the story is that becoming an Adventist is another story different because it became another crucible. It sent me back to where I left.
Okay.
Because my loved ones suddenly turned to my enemies. My uncle, who was loving and caring, became an enemy because I became an Adventist. In fact, I was termed a cultist. I was taken off my room. The door was removed, and goats and sheep
would come in and
it was made where they sleep. I suffered quite a lot because of this Adventist faith, because my uncle, who loved me, who had never denied me anything, suddenly became an enemy. And the only option, the only way to return back, to restore back that relationship, is to leave the Adventism,
leave the faith,
and return back to the Evangelical Church of West Africa, then where I was born and brought up. Fortunately, the younger brother, who had been an Adventist, came in, but he wasn't that strong. I could remember being poisoned, sir. They poisoned my food so that I would eat and die, because the belief is that I've joined a cult. I didn't know. My cousin, kid sister, came with the food, left it in the room, because I went out and she looked for me to tell me not to eat the food, but I stayed so long. By the time I came back, all of them have slept. So I was hungry, I saw the food, I prayed and I ate. I think I became a living testimony of the book of Mark, chapter 16.
You drink poison
and you don't have it. And I didn't know.
Okay.
The next day in the morning, they came out as early as possible to be sure I ate the food and to feel if I was dead. But she came and saw me. She woke me up, I woke up. She held me and she was crying. I was looking for you not to eat this food, brother. It was poison. They wanted to, it was right poison. I think that marked my change of perception about God, in spite of the crucible, in spite of the persecution. For God to have allowed me eat that food that was poisoned, and I survived. No pain, no reaction, nothing, was a great miracle, sir.
Wonderful. And that is where we would hold it for today as we continue the story on another edition of the program. Until next time, when we bring you another edition of the program, it's the Damascus Encounter, and we say keep watching Hope Channel and looking out for your Damascus Encounter. Bye-bye.